let's talk about how Israel is preparing for war, not just on the battlefield, but underground. The Sami Offa Fortified Emergency Hospital at Rambam Healthcare Campus in Haifa is a 3-story, 2,000-bed underground complex. Normally, only the first 2 floors operate. Now, the third, housing 700 beds, is being rapidly outfitted with power, water, air conditioning, plumbing, communications. Built after the 2006 Lebanon War, this hospital is designed to survive missile attacks and treat civilians and soldiers alike under bombardment. This is all being fully activated by the order of the IDF, surprise, surprise, so the facility can function independently. But here's where the contradictions hit. There was a viral clip that emerged on Twitter, aka X, sorry, Curtis, that shows IDF soldiers operating inside a hospital, the same Rambam complex. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, while it may be legitimate treatment of wounded soldiers, I think it raises a very simple question. How is this any different from what Israel actually accuses Hamas of? For months, Israeli officials have claimed that Hamas uses hospitals in Gaza as military bases, justifying strikes on medical infrastructures. Yet here we have Israeli presence, military presence even in hospitals, military installations embedded in Tel Aviv, and a fortified wartime hospital treating soldiers. I mean, am I the only one who can see the irony here? This hypocrisy isn't new. You've got rights groups, AP, Breaking the Silence, that have documented Israeli forces using Palestinians as human shields. In one case, Jamal Abu al-Ula in February 2024 was forced to evacuate patients from a Gaza hospital and then shot dead by the IDF. In the West Bank, soldiers have forced detainees to clear buildings under fire. Meanwhile, Israel claims Hamas violates hospital neutrality. But Human Rights Watch and the World Health Organization say they've seen no evidence justifying these bombings, describing the strikes that Israel have been doing on hospitals since before October 7th as unlawful. And I think it's safe to say that what we're seeing here isn't, we're not seeing moral clarity. I don't think we have been for a while now. I think when we're watching this news cycle, it's feeling so much more doom and gloom than ever before. But this story in and of itself seems like strategic narrative warfare. It seems like the line between military and civilian infrastructure isn't blurred, it's being deliberately erased. Novel from Al Shifa to Nasser, the narrative has always been Hamas hides behind hospitals, but now we have the IDF in Rambam. What do you make of all of this?
Well, if we take a look at this, for most people, knowing about Israel's actions, which is after October the 7th, really, it's a genuine surprise for a lot to see what was known as defending Israel from the very beginning and what now just seems like pure excuses. And I think slowly a lot of people are realizing that every single major person that was the head of October the 7th is dead now, right? They got Sinwar, they got the other heads of Hamas, they got even some of their major convoys, right? They got everyone in that main upper circle, and they got everyone beyond. So anything that looks like just disproportionate military violence now, for most people, they can easily tell that Israel has gone far beyond what's necessary. The other thing is, because I was talking about this in the frame of October the 7th, Israel's always been like this, and for most people, it's now a surprise. Now, over the weekend, I'm sure a lot of people saw Iran launched its retaliatory strikes to Israel's preemptive strike on Tel Aviv. And what was really interesting, which a lot of us didn't know, I personally didn't know, I found out about this for the first time, but when Israel talks about the casualties in Gaza basically being due to urban warfare and a tight, densely packed area, the IDF's HQ is in the middle of Tel Aviv, and it's surrounded by civilian apartments, museums, and different institutions. Sorry, I thought that Gaza was a densely packed urban area in which most people couldn't build up proper infrastructure. However, in Tel Aviv, it seems like it was almost deliberately done. So, what looks like a democratic society which values civilian casualties and is the most moral army in the world, Netanyahu has had to now say it's one of the most moral armies in the world, so even that goalpost has clearly shifted. Seems like that mask is slipping really quickly, and I don't think they can keep it up for much longer because it is pure hypocrisy. Everything from human shields to Hamas do not care about civilians to Palestinians are terrorist supporters does not work anymore, because actually what we're seeing is Israel's projecting that image onto the Palestinians for the world stage, while they know that America provides them with the umbrella of internationalist cover, so Bibi is not in The Hague.
Yeah, really, really, really excellent points. You're so right. This is not new. This is not new at all, which is why I brought up the story that emerged from 2020. I think he was murdered in 2024, beginning of 2024, before October 7th, where the video is actually so like it's horrific. It's frightening the way that Jamal had been brought into hospital like in like with his hands tied, and then they made him suffer in the way that they did. We've seen Israeli soldiers, we've seen the IDF, we've seen the Israeli government operate in this sort of way with like no shame in their game. They're like, look, hey, look at what we're doing, but oh, mate, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just like woe to us. And this is a textbook case of like colonial projection, the occupier doing exactly what they accuse the occupied of. But what Israel have is global impunity, and that's what scares me on this platform. So when we look at Israeli soldiers operating inside of Rambaba Hospital in Haifa, not in a war zone, not under siege, it's in a fortified, ultra modern underground hospital built for military, civilian, dual use. It's like, you know, there's no outcry, there's no headlines, there's no accusations the IDF use in hospitals, just absolute silence. But the minute that they're bombing medical infrastructure, they're like, yeah, but Hamas soldier was there, a Hamas soldier was there.
Yeah.
And there was this video that emerged, I saw it this morning before I went to work, where a Sky News journalist, I wish I'd saved it because I wanted to analyse it a little bit more, but a Sky News journalist was having an interview with like some military personnel from the IDF. Out, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, there was a Sky News journalist that was speaking to military personnel from the IDF, and was essentially saying like, well, you guys have been doing this. You don't give people enough warning. Say that you give people warning before you warn them. And he was like, yeah, we have. We did it in Lebanon and blah blah blah. And then she was like, no, I was in Lebanon. What are you talking about? And then he actually ended up completely cutting off the interview and said, I don't want to be interviewed by you anymore. And shut off the whole thing live. So what I'm seeing is that this isn't about military tactics. This is just actually about narrative control. They want to control the narrative so much that they will willingly sit out of interviews where they're being made, being held to account. So yeah, I don't know. It's settler logic, I think, and it always
Yeah.
tries to barbaric and dismissive and disrespectful, and the colonizers some elderly, moral, and efficient, and essentially this victim. And I think that's why the same action, a soldier in a hospital gets a war crime label in Gaza, but a PR tour in Tel Aviv.
I think you make a really, really important point when it comes to the imperial logic behind this, right? Because it is about narrative control, as you've said. But as we've seen with other imperial European projects, it is also about setting up a long-term idea of what the place that you're settling looks like. Now, if you take a look with Australians, where the original settler colonialism really was happening, with the Aboriginals being displaced by the Europeans, there was a cultural idea which still prevails now, and I'm sure a lot of people hear it, that indigenous people were savages, they were killing each other, Europeans came and they colonized and they settled, but they worked the ground up and they built it up, right? And the same thing that's basically being used in Gaza and in Palestine is the long term idea of the Palestinians don't really want peace. They are a savage people. They hate us. They hate us because we're Jewish. And it was actually Arabian conquest and colonialism in the 19th century which displaced the Jewish people, essentially comparing thousands of years of conquest by the Ottomans or by different empires to the Nakba. And it's a very central part of comparing and utilizing the Nakba as actual a decolonial project rather than seeing the Nakba as the dispersing and ethnic cleansing of an indigenous population. And while, although, like I've said before, most of us aren't within Israeli society, and so we won't hear about those points, what we are seeing that's coming out for October the 7th and so far is, yeah, a lot of declining support for Israel. However, at the same time, there is going to be a group of people and somewhat of a narrative established that Palestinians are a violent force, and it seeks to not only set up the logic of what Palestinians are like in the short term, but it also looks to set up in the long term, because under now and for a long time, Israel will be an apartheid state unless Western powers put international pressure upon them.
Really, really great points. I just want to double check. Can everyone hear me all right? Really great points, because I want to unpack everything that you've said as well, and I thought it was really great. They said, yeah, is it Dalek?
Yeah.
What is Dalek? Is that the thing
I
in
think it's the
Doctor
thing
Who?
from Doctor Who, yeah.
So I didn't watch Doctor Who, guys. Exterminate. Yes, I do. You're absolutely right, though. Absolutely right, Noffel. And that will be the outcome, I think, going forward. I will just say also to the audience, I'm not very well, so I don't know if I sound Dalek because my vocal cords aren't just there, but who knows. But I have another question for you, Noffel, because Israel, there was this point about hospital neutrality, that Hamas violate hospital neutrality, and I kind of want to like unravel that a little bit more. When we have the IDF that are turning hospitals into military zones, and they're tearing through refugee camps, and building underground bunkers in cities, can there actually be such a thing as neutral humanitarian spaces under an occupying power?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, because at the heart of it, Israel is a settler colonial state, and what it looks to do is expand its territory, not just internally, but externally. In Syria alone, Israel now have about 30% of their water infrastructure controlled. If Israel had it its way, like any other empire, it would take over half the world tomorrow, and it'd reclaim the British flag, but with a blue and white one with the Star of David, and claim it's a Jewish homeland, right? When it's actually just a Zionist imperialist force. And yeah, I think you're right. I don't think there can be a neutral ground. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily neutral to surround Gaza with the Gaza Strip with a bunch of surveillance probes by saying it's a neutral ground. And I think this all is an amalgamation of the complete failure of us as a nation and America as a nation to actually put sufficient pressure on Israel. Because had we actually do that, we would be looking at a completely different state. Maybe we would see a progress to a two-state solution without the need for resistance, right? Now that may sound a bit utopian, but we haven't really put enough pressure. And I just want to make it very clear: the idea often gets spun around that Israel is control of us, but we are very much in control of them. If the US called Israel tomorrow and told them to hand over every single hostage they'd got from the West Bank from October the 7th to now in exchange for the hostages that Hamas took, they would basically be forced to do that. Trump already went directly to Hamas to get hostages. Trump also directly went to Hezbollah to get certain deals, cutting Israel out of the deal. So that's genuinely how powerful Western nations is when it comes to providing a true, meaningful, neutral force which provides Palestinians with a space to live in dignity and build up their indigenous homeland, along with stopping a crazy onslaught of what is now going to be remembered for the last almost 2 years now as babies with limbs missing and mothers losing multiple different children.
Support independent media, support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.